Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Salatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Alhamdulillah, we begin by praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this opportunity for us to continue with our lessons in the Muqaddimah Hadramiyyah. Today we will straight away enter into Muqaddimah Hadramiyyah because of time. Before I start, I just check the sound. Last week I was mentioning about some of the things I need that some of the things I need that is related to the prayer timings. So basically, I mentioned in our last lesson about the timing of the Zuhr prayers, and basically timing of the Zuhr prayers is when the height of a particular thing is the same as the shadow. So for example, if you take a stick that is 1 meter long, and then when it is under the sun, so as long as the shadow of the stick is less than 1 meter, meaning the time of Zuhr is still present. But once the shadow has reached 1 meter and more, now that's the time of Asar. And the reason why we mention 1 meter and more is because we take into consideration the istiwa. The istiwa. You can listen to the audio in speaker for last week's lesson. I mentioned about the meaning of istiwa. Because when the sun is exactly on top of the stick or an object, so there will be slight shadow that is formed underneath. This is called zilul istiwa. The fact that the sun is exactly on top of the object. So when the sun moves to the west, when there is an inclination of the shadow towards the east, then this is the time of zawal. So the time of zawal is basically it is the time of zuhr. So this is what we mentioned last week, and also we mentioned about the time of Asar. When the end of the time of Zuhr comes the time of Asar. So the time of Asar is when the height of the object is more than the shadow. The height of the shadow of the object is more than the object. So this is the time for Asar. And we mentioned the meaning of Waqtul Fadila. So in Zuhr we have Waqtul Fadila. Waqtul Fadila is the time that is needed for a person to take ablution and to perform the adhan and iqamah and to pray the sunnah prayers. So it is about 15 to 20 minutes after the time of zawal. So if a person prays during this time, this is praying in the time of waqtul fadila. So the rewards is much more than to delay any prayers out of waqtul fadila. And this is based on the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam when he was asked what is the best of deeds. So he mentioned as-salatu fi waqtiha aw kama qala sallallahu alaihi wasallam, yani to pray at the stipulated timing, or the timing that is in the early part of the prayer times. And then we have what is called as waqtul ikhtiar. So waqtul ikhtiar is the timing after waqtul fadila, and then comes waqtul jawaz. Pertaining to Zuhr prayers, the Waqtul Ikhtiar and Waqtul Jawaz they are the same. So after Waqtul Fadila comes Waqtul Ikhtiar and Waqtul Jawaz, and then we have Waqtul Hurma. Waqtul Hurma is the time that if you perform the prayers, part of the prayers will be out of the time. So for example, if you pray Zuhr at 3:54 and 4 o'clock is Azan and Asar for example. So if you pray at a particular time and part of the prayers goes out of the timing of Zuhr, so now you have entered into Waqtul Hurma. So if a person prays, for example, 5 minutes for Zuhr prayers, so 5:55 onwards is considered to be Waqtul Hurma, because part of the prayer will be outside the prayer timing. And then we have what is called as Waqtu Udhr. So before this, we mentioned that if a woman who is having any menses, if the menses stop any just moments any before the Asar prayers. So this is what you call it. It is compulsory any upon her any to make up any for the Zuhr prayers, and because now she is any in a state anywhere the preventive any factor is lifted. Yani she was having menses, and then the menses any stop moments any before the Asar prayers. So it is wajib any upon her any to make up any for the Zuhr prayers. And then what you call it, this is what you call it, we call it any waqtu darura. And then we have waqtu udhr. The timing any of Asar any is waqtu udhr any for the Zuhr prayers, any when we combine any our prayers, and when we delay any our prayers, and when we pray the Zuhr prayers any at the Asar any timing, then this is waqtu udhr. And so the timing any of Asar any waqtu udhr any for Zuhr, and the timing any of Zuhr in waqtu udhr any for Asar, because we can pray any Asar prayers any at Zuhr time when we are traveling, when we are given any the concession. Likewise, any we can delay any our prayers into the Asar timing. So these are some any of the timings any that we mentioned. So we spoke about waqtul fadila, and then any we spoke any about waqtul ikhtiar, and then we spoke any about waqtul jawaz. And last week also I mentioned that there is a difference between waqtul jawaz that is makruh and waqtul jawaz that is not makruh. And this is any pertaining any to Asar prayers. When it comes any to the Asar prayers, after waqtul fadila, any we have waqtul ikhtiar, and the waqtul ikhtiar any ends when the shadow any of an object any is twice than the height any of the object. Then comes any waqtul jawaz that is not makruh, and it ends any until there is some yellowish. The sky any becomes any yellowish, and this is before any sunset, just before sunset. So this ends the waqtul jawaz any that is not makruh. So when the jawaz any waqtul jawaz any that is not makruh ends, then comes any waqtul jawaz that is makruh. So in Asar prayers any we have two types any of waqtul jawaz. We have waqtul jawaz that is not makruh, and we have waqtul jawaz any that is makruh. So when it comes to waqtul ikhtiyar any, I mentioned that waqtul ikhtiyar any is after the end of waqtul fadila, all the way any until the length any of the shadow any of an object is twice any the height. And then any we have waqtu darurah any same when for example any one woman under menses moments any before Maghrib, and she is pure, for example, then she has any to make up any for the Asr any and Zuhr any with the conditions any that we mentioned any before this. So in our last lesson any we spoke any about the Zuhr timing, and we spoke any about the Asr timing. So now any today inshallah any we will enter into the timing any of the Maghrib. So as you can see, the author is speaking any about the difference any between waqtul fadila and waqtul jawaz, waqtul ikhtiyar. I hope any it is clear inshallah. So now any we go on any to speak any about the timing any for Maghrib. So the author any mentioned wa awwalul Maghrib bil ghurub. Then the first the timing any for the Maghrib any prayers any when there is when the sun any set. When the sun any set any completely, that is any the time, that is the time any of Maghrib. Wa yabqa hatta yaghiba ash-shafaqul ahmar. And the timing any of Maghrib any until the disappearance any of the redness. We have this redness any from the light any of the sun, because any the sun's any light any they are of few any categories. Any we have the color red, and then we have the color yellow and white. So when the sun any set, the redness any of the sun, the redness any from the light any of the sun any can be visible any in the horizon. So when this any redness any disappears, that is the end of the time of Maghrib. So that is the timing any of comes any the timing of Isha, and this is based on a hadith in Sahih Muslim, where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam any mentioned waqtul Maghrib ma lam yaghib ash-shafaq. The time any of Maghrib any as long as the redness any of the light any of the sun is still in the horizons. So when it disappears, then it comes any the timing of the Isha prayers. So this one in the author any mentioned wa yabqa hatta yaghiba ash-shafaqul ahmar wa huwa awwalu waqtil Isha, and this is any the beginning any of the Isha time. Walaha salasatu awqat, and he mentioned there are three timings. First one he mentioned waqtu fadilatin awwaluhu Any waqtul fadila, any same thing, any about 15 minutes, yani from the sunset. The time any that we need any to take any ablution, to wear our clothes, to perform any the adhan, to perform any the iqamah, to perform any the qabliyah, and then the maghrib prayers, and then the ba'diyah. So altogether 7 rak'ah. So it's about any 15 minutes. So if maghrib any is at 7 p.m., so by 7:15 the waqtul fadila has ended. And in the madhab of Imam Shafi'i, there are two opinions based on the madhab of Al-Jadid. Al-Imam Shafi'i mentioned that that the timing of Maghrib is waqtul fadila. Yani basically it's about 15-20 minutes yani after sunset. And this is the opinion of Al-Imam Shafi'i in Jadid, in the madhab of Al-Jadid. But of course, our scholars, they mention that this is not the prevailing judgment in the madhab. The prevailing judgment follows the madhab of Al-Qadim. And madhab Al-Qadim mentioned that the timing of Maghrib is there as long as the Shafaqul Ahmar is present. That's what we mentioned. The redness from the light of the sun is present in the horizon. And this is mentioned by Ashab Shafi'i, the scholars who came after Imam Shafi'i. They chose this opinion. So they do not choose the opinion that is chosen by Al-Imam Shafi'i. So just need to take note, there are some differences in this issue pertaining to the timing of Maghrib. وَلَهَا ثَلَاثَةُ أَوْقَاتٍ وَقْتُ فَضِيلَةٍ أَوَّلُهُ ثُمَّ وَقْتُ اختيار. The author mentioned about the Isha prayers pertaining to the Isha prayers, there are 3 prayer timings. So number 1 is waqtu fadila, and then pertaining to Maghrib, as what I mentioned, waqtu fadila is the same, 15 minutes. And after waqtu fadila, we have waqtu ikhtiar, and we have waqtu jawaz, and waqtu ikhtiar and waqtu jawaz for Maghrib is the same. Waqtu ikhtiar and waqtu jawaz for Maghrib is the same. So after the ending of waqtu fadila comes waqtu ikhtiar and waqtu jawaz. And then we have waqtu darura, that is the time where moments before the coming of Isha, a person, the menses of a person stops, or a person becomes sane after he was insane, or a boy becomes what you call it, reach puberty. So these are what you call it, examples where the preventive factor disappears. The preventive factor disappears from a person. So it is wajib upon them to make up for the Maghrib prayers. And if for example 5 minutes before Isha, the menses of a woman stops, then it is wajib upon her to make up for the Maghrib. So this is what we call as waqtu darura. And then we have what you call it, waqtu udhur. Waqtu udhur is the timing of Isha for Maghrib prayers, that if we delay our Maghrib to Isha when a person is traveling, for example, so the timing of Isha is considered to be waqtu darura for Maghrib, and the timing of Maghrib is waqtu darura for Isha. Then we have waqtu hurma, same thing, as what we mentioned. Waqtu hurma is the timing that if you pray in it, part of the prayers will be outside in the prayer timing. So this is waqtu hurma, and it's haram that a person delay the prayer to such timings. So pertaining to the Maghrib, we have waqtu fadila, we have waqtu ikhtiar, we have waqtu jawaz, and then we have waqtu udhur, waqtu darura, and then waqtu hurma. And pertaining to Isha prayers, we have waqtu fadila, and then we have waqtu ikhtiar. And this is where the author mentioned summa waqtu ikhtiar ila thuluthil layl, to 1/3 of the night. 1/3 of the night. So night, if we divide the night into 12 hours, for example, so 1/3 will be 4 hours after. For 1/3 will be 4 hours. So if from 7 if Maghrib is at 7 p.m., the Fajr is at 5 a.m. So in between we have 10 hours. 10 hours we divide by 3. So we get about 3 hours and 30 minutes. So 3 hours and 30 minutes we add to 7. So we get 10:30. So 10:30 basically is 1/3 of the night. So here he mentioned that waqtu ikhtiyar is up to sulusul layl. So anything any that is above any 10:30 any is out any of waqtu ikhtiar. So waqtu ikhtiar any is within the timing any after waqtu fadila about any 10:30 or 11 o'clock. So this is any waqtu ikhtiar any pertaining to Isha prayers. And after any waqtu ikhtiar any we have waqtu jawaz. We have any waqtu jawaz. And then after waqtu jawaz any we have waqtu hurma, and then we have waqtu uzur and waqtu darura. Any same explanation any as what any we mentioned before this. So he says summa waqtu ikhtiyar ila thuluthil layl, summa waqtu jawaz ila al-fajr. Then we have any waqtu jawaz, waqtu jawaz all the way to fajr sadiq. So after any waqtu ikhtiyar, then we have any waqtu jawaz. Waqtu jawaz any all the way any to fajr as-sadiq. Why any he mentioned any fajr any sadiq? Any because fajr any there are two types in your fajr. We have fajr sadiq and we have fajr kadhib. So fajr sadiq any is the real fajr. The real any timing any for the timings in your prayers. Any when the rays any of the sun, any the light rays any of the sun appears any in the horizon, that covers any the horizon, that is the true fajr. So this is any the time any of subuh. Wa huwa al-muntashiru daw'uhu mu'taridan bil ufuq. So he explained any what is fajr sadiq. So the nature of fajr sadiq any is that dawn that is light and is spread across the horizon. Whereas fajr kadhib, it is only any one stretch any of line. One stretch any of line, like the tail any of the wolf or the tail any of the fox. So it does not any covers any the horizon. It only covers any part any of the horizon. That is fajr kadhib. So that is not any the time of fajr. That is not the time any of fajr. Wa huwa awwalu waqti subhi, and this fajr sadiq any is the timing any of the fajr prayer. Walaha arba'atu awqat, and there are four timings any to it. Number one any is waqtu fadilah awwaluhu. So again any he speaks any about the timings any within the fajr timing. So he mentioned there are four categories. So number one any he mentioned is the waqtu fadilah. So number one he mentioned waqtu fadila, summa ikhtiar ila al-isfar. So we have any waqtu fadila about any 15 minutes, and then after any waqtu fadila any we have waqtul ikhtiar, and waqtul ikhtiar is after the end any of waqtu fadila all the way to isfar. This is what then he says summa ikhtiarin ila al-isfar, until any the time of isfar. And the time any of isfar any basically what it means is that if you are in total darkness, that when you are able any to see a person any beside you, that is the timing of isfar. That you are able any to see some light, that is any the timing of isfar. So in the madhab al-Imam Shafi'i, the end of waqtul ikhtiyar is when the time of isfar any comes in. Summa jawaz ila al-humra, and then any we have waqtu jawaz, that is not makruh. When redness any covers any when redness any of the redness any has the covers any the horizon, and then after that and we have jawaz any that is makruh. Jawaz any that is any makruh. And then the same thing and we have waqtu we have this waqtu hurma, that part any of the time that if we perform any the prayers any at the end any of the timing, part any of the prayers any will be out any of the prayer time, that is waqtu hurma. And then any we have waqtu darura, that any moments any before the rising any of the sun, that the preventive any factors any disappears, then any it is wajib any for one any to make up any for the fajr prayers. So basically these are the timings any of the 5 times daily prayers. And then he mentioned وَيُكْرَهُ تَسْمِيَةُ الْمَغْرِبِ إِشَاءً وَالْإِشَاءُ عَتَمَةً. It is makruh you need to name any maghrib any prayer as isha, and it is makruh you need to name isha as atama, because any the hadith and the Prophet ﷺ pertaining to this, to avoid any confusion, because the Arabs during before any Islam, they name any the time of maghrib any as isha, because in the Arabic language any isha any basically it means night time. But Islam any came and differentiate any between what is maghrib and what is isha, so that people any will not be confused. So it is makruh any to name Maghrib any as Isha, and Isha any as Atama. So because it collides any with the meanings any within the Islamic tradition. So that is why the Prophet ﷺ discouraged us any to name those timings any as such. So inshallah ta'ala, we will stop here for tonight, and we will continue next week. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us and with tawfiq. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah rabbil alamin. Allahumma salli wa sallim ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali sayyidina Muhammad. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanah fil akhirati hasanah wa qina adhaban nar. Sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi sallam. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.